of our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft, which, since the last time we met, has taken another turn about its imaginary axis, and of course continues creating events in full development. And before we start with the show, I would like to deeply thank the staff working in the School of the Base Francisco de Miranda, located in the beautiful city of Caracas. They also have within the command of the Air Force of Venezuela. Air Force is the word I tend to use, however, they have a new doctrine today. And I saw there an important dedication to children. It's a school with a lot of privileges, and they're all under the same program, and they have the same controlled quality, but I was able to see the spiritual part, the intellectual part, and the physical part being taken to the most beautiful position, with some demonstrations that you would only expect to see at Olympic levels. And being able to see children do this is a great deal. I would like to thank them for their warm welcome, even for my surprise, because apparently every single child watches Dossier. Apparently they all love this. That's why I often apply censorship on myself with some of the images that could be very impacting, but we decided not to show. So today we started a beautiful day in our beautiful and beloved capital of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. But once again, we need to talk about the maniac in the White House. So, just like the rest of the presidents around the Atlantic, he thought he was going to have a crowd when he arrived in the United Kingdom. However, when they realized that Trump was going to come, there was a crowd indeed, and they visited the base where he was supposed to land, but they weren't there to applaud him. They were there to boo him, and they needed to find an option, so they had to choose an airport of World War II. You know that the Air Force war between the Western and the Axis was very important, so the number of airports around Great Britain are now only used for smaller airlines, and they needed to send the Air Force One with all the security to a second-tier type of airport, because people gave him a terrible time. If not, he wouldn't have landed there. Either way, they were able to locate him there, and if Trump thought that he was going to get a better image of himself in England, well, it's actually turning worse for him. So now let's take a look at the events in full development. And this person who bought the presidency because it was the only thing he was lacking had to take all the members of his security to a low-tier airport of World War II. The protest against the war of Iraq in 2003. The meeting between Trump and Theresa May are outside of London to avoid the different protestations against him. Downing Street and the Buckingham Palace in the center of London will have Trump meeting May. The demonstrators reject the visit of the President of the States, and they will continue as long as Trump stays in Britain. Trump will reach Scotland and will visit the golf camps that he often likes to visit. But there's going to be a demonstration in Many, World Trump International, managed by Donald Trump in the region.
Esta es una nota cortesía de NTN.
This comes from NTN. We are in London, and I am right in front of the official residency of the ambassador of the United States in the British capital. And there are around 500 people protesting due to the arrival of President Trump, together with Melania. to the airport 4 hours ago. And now he is going for dinner with Theresa May. In order to avoid this type of demonstrations, they decided to do so in the ancestral house of Winston Churchill, located around 2 hours away from here. The same thing will happen tomorrow. Trump will not meet with the Queen in Buckingham Palace, however, in the Windsor Castle, that is also located 2 hours from London. And the meeting with Theresa May will be in the field residence of Theresa May. Tomorrow there's going to be a giant demonstration. Organizers speak that more than 30,000 people will be there. It will start in the BBC and then that in Trafalgar Square. Let's listen to one of the organizers of this protest from an NGO. Tomorrow is the 9th demonstration, and there are a lot of demonstrations throughout all the city. One here, one in Shepherd, another in Barham, and tomorrow there's going to be a very big demonstration. It will start at the BBC, and it will go directly to Trafalgar Square, where we are expecting around 150,000 people at least. There's going to be a lot of protests throughout the country protesting Trump and his policies. President Donald Trump arrives to the United Kingdom in a time of turmoil for Theresa May, and he has said so. This is a moment of confusion. However, for both countries, the relationship between London and Washington is very important, and it's going to be set based on what happens in the UK after they leave the EU, so after the so-called Brexit. Marcos Papadopoulos, who's the editor of Politics First, said the following. First of all, the relationship between the States and the UK is extremely important for both countries. Donald Trump has stated that the United Kingdom is extremely dear to him on the personal level. It's one of the most important countries for him at a personal level. And that's why Theresa May has echoed the same words, regardless of what some people in the States and the United Kingdom, as well as the media, who state that there's no menace behind this special relationship. We don't know what type of Brexit. No one in the Brexit campaign knows about this. No one in the campaign will know if they will stay, because the government doesn't even know what they want. And this is one of the problems. When British officers meet with the European Union and their counterparts, and the EU is aware about what they want. We are showing you images of what's happening right now. President Donald Trump is behind this fence with Melania Trump in the official residency of the ambassador of America, and they protest the treatment against immigrants and the families, many of them from Central America, and the separation of children and their parents. Of course, Trump will be listening to the noise of this protest, but he states still that a lot of British people appreciate him. Tomorrow, a Zeppelin will fly over the center of London. It costs around $45,000, and it's a baby with the shape of Donald Trump. So we're going to see what happens with this very important visit for Donald Trump and Theresa May.
Bueno, primera salida al exterior, ¿no? Y ya rompió toda la cristalera.
First time he's left, and he's already doing all of those problems. In the meantime, for the NATO, the Secretary Stoltenberg said, we had a very clear discussion today, and this is about the division of the share, both today and tomorrow. This discussion has strengthened the NATO and created a new sense of emergency and urgency about the importance of investing in defense. They also mentioned that Trump is the one demanding this, and of course Trump owes something to the military apparatus, because they give money for the campaign even though he doesn't need this. However, he's part of the very powerful lobbies of the extreme right wing. We are committed. The fact that we held this open discussion has also shown that we will double our efforts, and it is not clear, but surely clearly Trump's message has an impact. So what does Trump want? To be rearmed. So when the world was calm, he decided to change the events. And this, of course, not said by the NATO, but by us. Everyone has heard Trump's message, and we believe that he's very serious about the expenditure in defense. And this shows a clear impact in the agenda. The call for President Donald Trump on its allies to spend more, not in education or health, but weapons, once again, these are our words, have a very clear impact, and they have strengthened the NATO. As stated by James Stoltenberg, when he was requested to answer about a meeting behind closed doors, there wasn't any answers. Trump and a definitive agreement with Putin will create a world without nuclear weapons. He's in Brussels, Belgium, and he tries to have more weaponry while speaking about peace. So what would be the best piece of advice with Putin if you come to Helsinki? And he said, well, I cannot tell you what would be the best, what would be the last, but, well, no more nuclear weapons around the world. This would be the best. No more war, no more problems, no more conflict. Let us find the cure for every disease known in the world, for men and for women. This would be the best. And we, from this point on, start discussing this topic. Ukraine, that wants to be a part of the agenda in the summit between Putin and Trump, well, these things have also been taken into consideration. This is the Square of Independence, remembered by those who remember the life cost of World War II as well as the cost of any other type of repression. Men and young people who are no longer with us, people mourning them. People walk by this memorial in order to pay the honor to demonstrators killed in 2013 and 2014. The Ukrainian flag, as well as the pictures of the people and the plaques that remember this repression. People watching the memorial. And Ukraine's parliament, showing the shield of arms. Vladimir Ariev, one of the legislators, mentioned President Trump is not as flexible as the entrepreneur Trump. However, I don't think he's going to use Ukraine as a currency for exchange. He would like to get some achievements, but there is still concern about the type of achievements. I would like to speak about history, about any president, regardless of his past. Would like to avoid any negative thoughts in the future history book. It's very difficult now, however. Ukrainian lawyer Anton Vershenko stated, Putin wants for the Western world to acknowledge the occupation of Crimea and would allow Russia by itself. They need to get a message that the United States are ready to live with this. I don't think that Trump should agree with this, because if so, every ally of the United States throughout the world, I'm speaking about Taiwan, South Korea, and the other countries, will get a negative message about the United States losing their principles of democracy and peace, and therefore its allies as well. Other flags, and a political expert of Ukraine as well, Yevhen Makhda, stated both Putin and Trump will be based on the Minsk agreements. This was previously clarified in the European Council. Everyone is speaking about this, even though the Minsk agreements don't work. Today, they're an umbrella under which more actions can be taken. However, Ukraine will not become the most important topic during the conversation. It will only take a couple of hours. There are other matters. People there walking down the memorial, seeing all these pictures, and the demonstrators that were killed in their protest. Some of them peaceful, some others, of course, weren't so much. Babies and their parents, and in Kiev, Resident Vladimir Yakubovsky stated, I am not sure about Trump's agenda. But I hope it's a similar agenda to the Ukrainian one, the ones that are stopping the war in Ukraine and stopping the development of Ukraine. However, the concession of giving Crimea is not what the Ukrainian population want, and I don't think this is the right concession. There might be other points that are negotiable, but not Ukrainian territory.
Territory of Ukraine.
In Kiev, with another resident who stated, Putin can negotiate every single thing, but Trump should understand something. Someone who worked in the KGB and has the information and training of this old school will try to put together all the territories of the Soviet Union and bring them together. We're going to do so, and we're going to have a threat after the World Cup and after this meeting between Trump and Putin. After the World Cup, we will see what events turn out. There are barricades in Kiev, a beautiful and historical city. I walk down the Independence Square, and Ukrainian domination based on the flag that was waving. The NATO states that Turkey also wants to listen to new things. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, arrives at the conference with President Hassan and stated, "We reaffirm our commitment in the joint statement to the Wales agreements, and in Wales, every country of the NATO agreed to stop the cuts in defense and added 2%. We are happy with this, and on the basis on the consultations that we had with the Canadians and our own review of defense policies, we are increasing a 70% our investment for defense for the next decade. So this is becoming better." He asks the question and Trudeau answers. We continue acknowledging how important the NATO is and that we will continue increasing the cash flow, but based on the commitments and the capacity, and this is what the NATO wants. Answering another question, he said, President Trump has been consequent with the fact that he wants people to spend more money with weapons. And he is very happy for us doing so.
We are doing exactly that.
Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, who is the son of Trudeau Sr., who was a real leader. And he has done everything he could with the weight of being the heir. China has started a trade war. The Ministry of Trade of China has stated that during the last months of the present year, there have been talks between China and the United States. There were 4 rounds of conversations, and these talks did not lead to a lot of progress.
There have been talks between China and the United States. There have been 4 rounds of high-level talks, and those talks produced progress. And so much so that the U.S. government
Speaking about progress, he said there were some high-level talks, and the government of the states stated they will do something about it. They said the trade war at a halt, but they provided an announcement on tariffs on China, so the United States were the ones who started the war. And this is what Trump is doing, and we mentioned this before, when he's speaking about increasing tariffs. He added, these reactions for the measures taken go against China and the best interest of companies, consumers, farmers, and all of the people.
They are hampering the global economic growth.
They are hampering the global economic growth. They are just bullying ideas. They are against the global chain, and as members of the WTO, China must safeguard the WTO measures, and they will take all necessary measures in order to defend itself.
A otra pregunta dijo,
He added,
para
answering
cualquier
another question.
conversación y para que tenga
For
éxito,
any
una de
single
las
talk
partes necesita
and for
quitarle
any
el
of the
arma
parties to succeed,
a la otra. El
you
arma
need
con
to
que la está
take the
apuntando.
weapon away from the
Para que
other.
una conversación sea útil,
And for
una de las partes debe
conversation to be
mantener y hacer
useful,
honor a su
one of
palabra.
the parties
Si una de las
must
dos
be
sigue cortando y cambiando
loyal
todo el
to their
tiempo,
word.
la
If one
charla
of
no
them
tendrá
continues
sentido.
changing
Y
every
dirá,
moment,
acuéstate tú, yo
this
sigo
will
de pie.
make no sense.
Bueno, no nombró a Trump, pero hizo el identikit, ¿no?
Keeps chopping and changing all the time, the talk would be pointless. Thank you.
Okay, last question.
A otra pregunta, Wang Shouwen
Wang
dijo,
Shouwen
sí,
answered
es
then,
necesario mejorar las
yes,
reglas.
we need to improve the
There's
rules.
need for improvement of the rules. China is happy to discuss with
China se
all other
complace en
WTO
conversar con
members.
otros miembros de la OMC
China is
para
happy
mejorar
to speak to
el
other
reglamento
members
de la
of the
OMC, la Organización
WTO
Mundial de
to improve the
Comercio.
regulations of
Pero
the
es una
World Trade
declaración
Organization.
alarmista
However,
decir que las
it's
normas de la
very
Organización Mundial de
alarmist
Comercio
to state that the
no están en
regulations of the
condiciones de abordar los
WTO
problemas que surgen
don't
de
have the
China.
conditions
Eso
to
es una
face the
enorme
problems rising from
exageración.
China.
Muchas
And this
gracias.
is an extreme overreaction. Thank you very much.
The government of China published a white paper.
Aumentó la temperatura con ese ping-pong, ¿no?
After that, of
Y
course,
hasta ahí
temperature
dijo,
increased.
y me voy.
And then he left.
Estados Unidos inició la guerra comercial
United
y
States
China
has
se
started that
defenderá.
commercial
Ese es el
war and
mensaje.
China will defend
Dijo el
themselves.
ministro chino de
This is
Comercio,
the
Wang
message
Shouwen,
as
viceministro,
stated by the
y
Vice
agregó que
Minister
Estados
of
Unidos
Trade
es
of
un
China
matón
and
y hay que
added that
quitarle
the
la
States
pistola
are
a
a
Estados
bully
Unidos
and they should
para
be
allanar el camino a la
taken
conversación.
away from the
Casi nada,
weapons
¿no?
in order to
Eso es
pave
lo que
the
le
road.
dije cuando Trump
And
tomó
this
aquellas
is what I
medidas, le
told you
dije,
when
recuerdan,
Trump
acaba
started
de
with his
patear la
measures.
cristalería.
I told you,
Esto es
remember
un
what
burro
will
en una
happen after
cristalería, esa
this.
fue la expresión que usé. Bueno,
I
ahí están las
used an
consecuencias.
expression
Y
about
China
a
se
donkey
para
in a
y se va.
crystal shop, and this
Y
is
eso
what's
afecta
happening.
a todo el mundo,
And
no
this, of course,
al
affects
megalómano
all
de
the
Trump.
world, not only Trump.
Bueno, este jueves, presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump,
On Thursday, President Donald
hizo
Trump,
silencio. China,
was quiet.
por su parte,
China, on
dice que
their
no ha estado
behalf,
en contacto con los
stated that
Estados
they
Unidos.
haven't been in
No ha
contact
estado
with the
en
United
contacto
States,
con los
not
Estados
in
Unidos para
contact with the
reiniciar
United States
negociaciones comerciales.
to restart or resume the
Las
negotiations.
acusaciones de las llamadas transferencias de tecnología
Accusations
forzada de
about
China y el
forced
robo
technology
de propiedad
transfers
intelectual
and the
tuercen
robbery
los
of
hechos de la
intellectual
historia y
property
son completamente
turn the facts of history
inaceptables.
and are fully unacceptable.
中方已经多次表明，
China ha declarado muchas veces
China
un
has
requisito
declared
previo para las
often that a
negociaciones
previous
es la
requirement for
confianza
negotiations
mutua.
is mutual
Con bases
trust.
en mi comprensión
Based
actual de la
on my
situación, las
current
dos partes todavía
understanding
están
of
en
the
contacto
events,
para reanudar
both
las
parties are
discusiones.
still
Le faltó decir,
in contact
aprovechen.
to resume the negotiations.
Y luego
So he was
Gao Feng
basically asking for them to be
dijo,
taken
China
advantage
da la
of.
bienvenida
Then Gao
a la
Feng stated,
inversión de
China
Tesla
welcomes
al
the
establecer una
investment of
fábrica en China.
Tesla by
Pero esto no solo
establishing
es un éxito
a
para la
factory
apertura
in
de China,
China.
sino que
This is
también
not only a
demuestra los
success for
beneficios
China,
mutuos de la
but it
cooperación
also shows the
comercial de
mutual
China
benefits
con China.
of the cooperation of
Continuaremos
China
mejorando el
with
ambiente de
China.
inversión
We'll
nacional
continue
de China
improving
y
China's
atrayendo más y
environment,
excelentes empresas
and we will
extranjeras
bring
para
in
que
more
vengan a
and
China
excellent
y
foreign
generar
companies to
oportunidades
come to
conjuntas para el
China and
desarrollo.
generate joint
Como decirle
opportunities for
Trump,
development. So
pateaste la
this would be
cristalería,
like
pero nosotros
mentioning
tenemos nuestra
Trump,
propia manera de hacer las cosas.
you screwed things
Y
up,
tienen el
however,
peso,
we have
por
our
supuesto.
own way to do the things, and they are strong enough. They're unstoppable as a power.
Mientras tanto, acusación
In
de
the
los Estados
meantime,
Unidos sobre las
a claim
tarifas
of the United States
de
on
contramedidas de
tariffs,
China.
the countermeasures of
Gao
China.
Feng, portavoz del
Gao
Ministerio de
Feng,
Comercio chino, dice,
a spokesman of the
"Esa
Ministry
es la
of Trade of
lógica de
China,
un
said,
gángster, de
this
un
is the logic
pistolero.
of a
El
gangster,
ladrón grita,
of a
"Alto".
gunman. The
Sigan al
thief
ladrón.
shouts,
En primer
stop,
lugar, Estados
follow the
Unidos es
thief.
quien viola las
And the
normas
United
de la
States
Organización
are
Mundial
the
de
ones
Comercio.
who are violating the trade organization.
Forzadas y
However, they
justificadas.
criticize
Creo
China
que es
for our
evidente
actions that
para
are
todos
forced and
ver quién
justified. And I
tiene
think
razón
it's evident
y
for
quién
all
está equivocado.
to see who's right and who's
La
wrong.
cosechadora en los campos de soja.
Soy
Acá las veinitas de la
fields,
soya, ¿no?
and here you can see
Esto es solo un
soy.
aspecto de lo
This
que
is
afecta
just
ahora
one
al
of
panorama
the
internacional.
many aspects that
Y
affect
después,
international
cómo van a
events.
funcionar los puertos, los
And then
contenedores,
how
la
ports will
acusación
work with
de
the
Estados
containers
Unidos
and whatnot.
de los
The
aranceles
claim
de
of the United
contramedidas de
States
China es
about
una
the
lógica
tariffs
de
of
gánster.
countermeasures of
Acaba de
China
oírlo usted
is the
de
logic
parte
of a
del
gangster,
propio
as
portavoz del
mentioned
ministro de
by the
Comercio, Gao Feng.
spokesperson of the
Y si esto no es
Minister
el
of Trade,
arranque
Gao
de una
Feng.
guerra
If this is
comercial
not the
entre China y
beginning
Estados
of a
Unidos,
trade war
díganme
between
qué
China
es.
and the United States, States, I don't know what is. Mr. Trump believes that he can manage foreign policies like if it was one of his companies. People in Afghanistan look for survivors after a landslide that destroyed almost 300 houses near Afghanistan. This is Nanji in Afghanistan. Houses damaged, of course, and everything that the landslide brought with it. And everything below this mountain is something that we cannot establish there because it's very difficult to move so much debris. People who live in or near the mountains faced hell. The mosque closest to the mountain was the only shelter, and it is unknown if it's going to be useful in the future. It destroyed almost 300 houses and killed many people, while it swept away with a whole town of Afghanistan. 2 helicopters came to the scene. In Iraq, they protest in the oil fields requesting employment and basic services. This would have never happened with Saddam Hussein. And I've been in Iran from the Gulf until the border with Turkey, and everything worked perfectly. Everything was free. And this is the consequence. The same thing that happened with Gaddafi and his Libya. Officers had to open fire, and the rage is still shown by the demonstrators who will not stop protesting. And Muhammad Ali, one of the protesters, provided the following statements. He said the following. Iraq is a country that depends on the roads that go from north to the south. They're all closed. Here, Muhammad Ali stated, we have cut the cross from Samasha to stop humanitarian and civilian transportation. But if our demands aren't fulfilled, if we don't have a high-range delegation, we don't want a vice governor to do the negotiations we want. So if not, this will scale up. If today there are 1,000 people, tomorrow 10,000 people will attend this protest. We are warning the government that we are not going to stop if they don't send a delegation of the highest level. That toll reaching 200 due to the heat wave and lack of water. This is happening in Japan, that was affected by floods as well. But the problem here was drinking water. A very well-developed country, regardless of what happened during World War II. However, nature has no mercy on anyone. Soldiers walking down this path, looking for bodies in the holes because this was a real tidal wave. Shinzo Abe walking to the meeting room and provided his statement. In the midst of all this heat, take a look at his color, we are doing everything in our power for residents to live the restrictions of life conditions and specifically of evacuation centers and have all that's necessary for every single one of them. Here they provide food, medicine and everything that's basic and essential, as well as shelter and toiletries, as well as food. The Japanese society has a response for emergency with Naomi Kamatsu from her office, who added something. Well, it's very difficult to see a country as Japan facing this event. Kamatsu saying the following. At this stage, immediate response is now gradually moving for the observation of the continuous challenges that people could face in evacuation centers for emergency.
representante de la Cruz Roja.
A representative of the Red Cross also said the following: when we speak about response to disasters, we also enumerate risk, and we should think about early warning as well as training. But this is just one of the different sides, because the other side is related to the emergency and the need to fulfill with immediate actions. If both things are carried out together, things will turn out fine. But without coordination, lives will not be saved.
Not just only in Japan, but maybe in other contexts.
What we can learn from this disaster, as something that isn't happening only in Japan but could also be in a different context in a different nation, is that the fact of intervening with local factors who are the first ones providing the response with a sense of community and mutual support. This is unthinkable in Japan, where everything is perfect and ordered. This is part of their characteristic culture, and see how these events are turning out today. Trash everywhere, no one picking it up, and trucks cannot even reach the place, and this is something often unthinkable in Japan. Bringing debris from one place to another and pile them up, at least to free some roads. And generators to have energy in the most important places, as hospitals, support centers, collection centers, kitchens, schools. The death toll added up to 200 in the worst climate disaster of Japan in almost 40 years, while more bodies are found and diseases are trying to be prevented after these floods.
Bueno, panorama siniestro en Japón, ¿no?
Dark event in Japan. This is just in, that's why we're showing it to you. This is a country that is used to react under any event, and what happened after the two nuclear bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, due to which they lost a war, plus everything they required to recover it, and then the occupation after that really hurt their pride. Well, this created a very strong spirit for them. That's why in an emergency as brutal as this, they are very, very ordered and they're acting upon. It's a very good example. My satellite monitors don't provide more news. If not, we'll let you know immediately. The reason for which I am wearing this type of clothes is because I came from Base Francisco Miranda. I would like to thank all the people there. If we have time, we will speak about this to show you what is happening in that school, in the main base of the command of our army. Thank you. We'll be right back.
In South America and the Caribbean, we face challenges, looking for ways of contributing to solutions to the nations. With a uniting feeling, though before the attack of those imposing themselves, we defend an ideal of an inspiring struggle. We are together, preserving our traditions, integrated, being one South. We are always there tracking the news. We seek equality. We defend the truth. It's a hard job, but we are not alone. We count on a new ally.
In a world infested by inequalities, abuse of power, and injustice, the American journalist Abby Martin covers the struggle for fundamental rights worldwide, deepening into the search of files which uncover the empire's strategies through our screen and web platform in English. The Empire Files, with Abby Martin. Tuesday, only on Telesur.
We are back with more events in full development, and we're going to speak about Bravo Econs, our ambassador without borders. And it is now going through the Panama Canal, and Miraflores is the name of one of the parts of the Panama Canal, but there are also other parts, Gatun and others. I mentioned that I've been there twice, and we're going to show you a video about this directly in the Panama Canal, and we're going to see what is happening. So as you can see, they need to drag the vessel. So they have this type of train on each one of the sides, and of course it's a slow process because it's a very delicate maneuver. However, it's very calm and secure. These aren't our videos, they're the original ones. And Bravo Econs went through the locks, Paraíso, Cascadas, Pedro Miguel, Gatún. These are the name of these sluice gates. And as of now, the vessel is sailing at 9 knots on location 0700, latitude 1103 north and 075 west. The next port to visit in Willerstown in Curaçao. Now very close to the north of our country. They will arrive at Curaçao on the 15th. Academic activities resumed with the cadets, with training on sailing, economy, astronomy, loading. Economy is somehow linked to loading as well. Maneuvering, sailing, art, and everything that is part of the study plan Simón Bolívar. This is the United States, where the Greeks are against the position of the United States and the NATO, and thousands of Greeks are protesting against this. Against the summit of NATO, against the empire, and against the summit in Brussels. As stated by one of the citizens who is there and is showing his arguments. Tony, he's another demonstrator who stated, "We are against any single intervention in any war and in Syria. The Syrian people is the one that needs to decide what to do. Only them." Nothing as logical as this, of course. The Greeks flooded Athens in order to organize a protest against the United States and the ongoing summit of the NATO in Brussels, against the NATO, against the Empire of the United States, and looking for their full independence of regional powers. And the strategies of the NATO. Demonstrators criticize the NATO, that is headed by the United States, for intervening in the affairs of the Middle East and now changing topics. Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sánchez, stated that Spain respected all the legal decisions. As the president of the government, I have always followed the same idea. This type of decisions aren't qualified or deemed, they are respected, and this is what our government does. We respect every single decision, either made here or in Belgium or in Germany. What is important in terms of justice for Spain is that those involved with the facts that took place during the last semester of 2017 must be judged by Spanish courts. And then he added, there are many different paths that can politically solve this political crisis. This is not going to be solved from one day to the next. It will not take 2 months either. It will take a lot of time and dedication, as well as patience, generosity, determination, dialogue. These are concepts that are material and clear, and that we want to apply because we take the events in Catalonia very seriously. In the meantime, people related to Puigdemont stated that they will protest the possible extradition of him from Germany. This is still warming up, and based on the decision, Sanchez said that he would respect the court decision on Puigdemont outside of the rest of the countries, even though he mentioned that the former leader needs to be also brought to justice in Spain. This is part of the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty, and under a situation of tension on the inside due to political cost of decisions. Whenever we speak about NATO, people always smile and take family pictures.
With Prime Minister of Spain, Curie, and a clear progressive mandate. Obviously, it's
Bueno, aquí estábamos con Trudeau, ¿no?
Here we have both Trudeau and the Prime Minister of Spain, and the young Canadian stated his own words after what Pedro Sánchez said and the respect of Spain for the laws internationally, and this is of course due to the use of public funds. However, there was a denial of request, and this has been an event of rebellion. Trudeau, when his father retired, was already ready to take this position. President of Bolivia meets with the president-elect of Paraguay. This is the Government Palace of Bolivia.
Aquí está Abdo Benítez.
Abdo Benítez is his name, president of Paraguay, arriving at the palace. And Evo Morales meets with him. They meet. They take pictures. And Morales grants the Book of the Sea, El Libro del Mar. We were also given this book personally by him. This is the presidential gift related to the vindication of the rights of Bolivia for the possibility of going to the sea. And the president-elect of Paraguay, Aldo Benítez, Vice President Chancellor, I have committed to carry out every single thing required and put together all needed for Bolivia to become a full member of Mercosur. And that's to strengthen the potential that we have as this alliance of a region with a great potential throughout the world. I do so with a lot of respect. And we have a small recording about UNASUR, about ECLAC, and I'm very sorry to say that UNASUR is under an event of crisis. We have spoken about how to strengthen it, and I'm personally envy the integration of continents as Europe, Africa, Asia, We need to create and build capacity about how to evolve with our integration system. We have taken important steps with the President of Latin America and the Caribbean in order to keep on strengthening these mechanisms for integration in a region. The spirit of integration is still alive, even though a lot of people have tried to hinder it. However, a lot of people, well, we can see this right now. This was tweeted by Evo Morales. Trump extorts NATO to demand more money for weapons that are used in interventionism. USA must respect the sovereignty of the states of the EU and the world and assume that the peoples of Earth fight for peace, food, and bridges of understanding instead of walls and arms racing. Always clear, Evo Morales. And this shows the feeling of many of the countries who are now suffering the consequences of this attitude. Whatever the case may be, the times to see the results become shorter. This comes from Hispan TV, where the Peruvians march against the Congress and the corrupt judges. The first demonstration was in front of the office with deans of different professional schools. Mr. Orlando Velasco Benitez, President, we immediately demand for you and all the members to quit for your responsibility in the institutional crisis, as well as your clear incapacity of doing what's needed. Martín Vizcarra, to overthrow the legislators, approved a law process. I take full responsibility on my need to be the leader of the political reform of the state and the justice systems of Peru. I will immediately put together a commission for reform of the judicial powers. Collectives, guilds, and citizens met at San Martin Plaza to speak about corruption, who are accomplices of corruption in the justice system. We don't trust these commissions because the life of Peruvian citizens doesn't have a value for them. We do not have justice for the poor. Justice is just sold in Peru. The reaction of the Fujimoris against terrorism for vulnerating the rights of the citizens, those who say represent from the Congress. They are the ones who've shown excuses and said that they vulnerated the right to secret of communications of these judges who are clowns for every expression of justice in Peru. Temperatures in Peru reach minus 20 degrees Celsius, and this young child sent a message. We have been surprised by a day like this. According to the health ministry, as of now, 700 people have died due to pneumonia, and 177 are under 5 years old. This number could increase because the cold and the snow will increase. This is level 4. We need to have better measures for security based on all the central and south sectors. This could lead to damage on the health of the people mainly, and against crops as well. As an answer to this emergency, the government sent medicine as well as blankets that, according to the Health Council, are only reactive measures, and they just repeat each other's. Chronic anemia, low weight at birth, low rates of growth, problems as lack of available drinking water, things like this that are always a part of these places. This will of course worsen under these conditions and will lead to the death of these people. The NGO also spoke about the lack of appropriate housing and a collapsed health health system. The capacity of assistance of the health system aren't appropriately organized to tackle these needs, and in some cases with lack of doctors. Many of these health systems are only under the attention of technicians. The wave has also hit crops like 7,000 acres of crops here. The rains in the municipality of Touros, Brazil, have left at least 8,000 people affected. People affected needed to leave their homes, while others are isolated due to the rains during the last days in the region. According to this organization, 20 families lost everything they had and were brought to shelters created by the municipality. Based on this, the mayor of Touros created a state of emergency and needed to create a pump to bring the water to the sea. After rains, authorities inspected and were able to witness damage in almost 60 houses. The forecast, according to the enterprise of Rio Grande Norte, mentions that rains will decrease during the following days, where operations will become easier for health institutions. Frei Damião, Conjunto Calcanear, and Portara del Touros, as well as Praia de Touros, are isolated. There's a report about terrorist act, and at least half of the people killed on April 18th are related to the closed roads. They have stated that terrorist acts have also led to rape, torture, and others, as well as a lot of problems from the economic aspect. There's a follow-up for reestablishing peace and security that come from national dialogues in order to reach the solution for this conflict.
No solo pensé y canté las cosas
I
de mi
didn't
patria,
only think and sang things about my country, but I wanted to reach different nations. And here I want to read this poem that I seldom read, called Americas. It goes like this.
Viva Colombia bella y enlutada,
Long live Colombia, always mourning,
Ecuador coronado por el
and
fuego.
Ecuador crowned by fire.
Viva el pequeño Paraguay
Long live
herido,
a small wounded
por
Paraguay,
desnudos héroes resurrecto.
brought back from the dead by naked heroes. Venezuela, you sing in the map with blue skies in movement.
Y de Bolivia,
And
los
Bolivia,
huraños montes,
with your
los ojos
mountains,
indios y la luz
with
celebra.
indigenous and with the
Yo sé
light.
que aquí y
I
allá,
know that here
los
and
que
there,
cayeron defendiendo el
those who
honor,
have fallen
fueron los
defending
pueblos
pain
llamados
are
las
the
raíces
peoples
de mi
that I
tierra,
love
desde
to the
Rio
roots of
Grande hasta el
my
polo chileno.
own motherland, from Rio Grande to
solo
Chile,
porque están
not only
diseminados en
because
esta
they are
larga
widespread
lucha,
through this long
nuestros
struggle
huesos,
with our bones,
sino porque amo cada
but
puerta,
because I
puerta,
love every single
cada
poor
mano
door
del
and
profundo
every
pueblo.
single hand of
Y no
the
hay
deep
belleza
people.
como esta
There's no
belleza
such a beauty as
de
this
América
beauty
extendida en
of
sus
the long
infiernos,
America through
en
hells,
sus cerros de piedra y poderío,
through mountains of
y
rock
en
and
sus
power,
ríos atávicos y eternos.
through eternal rivers.
Y te amo en los recónditos
And I
espacios
love
de
you
las
in the
ciudades,
smallest spaces
con
of the
olor a
cities
estiércol,
that
los
smell
trenes
of
del alba
manure,
vacilante en los
with the
mercados y en
trains
los
and the
mataderos,
markets and
en las flores
slaughterhouses,
eléctricas de Santos,
with the
en
electric
la
flowers
cruel
of Santos, in
construcción
the
de tus
cruel
cangrejos,
construction of your
en tu
crabs,
decapitada minería,
in your
y en tus
decapitated
pobres
mining,
borrachos
and on the poor
turbulentos.
drunks created turmoil.
El planeta te dio
The
toda la
planet
nieve,
gave you all the snow,
aguas mayores y volcanes nuevos,
waters, and new
y
volcanoes,
luego el hombre fue
and
agregando
then man
muros,
added walls,
y adentro de los muros
and within the
sufrimiento.
walls
Y es por
suffering,
amor que pego
and
a tus
for love
costados,
at your sides.
recíbeme como si fuera el viento.
Please embrace me as if I were the wind.
Traigo con el canto
I
que
bring
golpea,
my sing,
un amor que
I
no
bring my
puede
song
estar contento.
that speaks about a love that cannot
Y la
feel joy,
fecundación de las campanas
the creation of bells, justice awaited by our peoples. And if I am not asking too much, we have so much, but we have so little that it is not possible for this to continue. This is my song. This is what I beg for. Because I don't beg for anything. I beg for everything. Everything for our peoples. And may the sudden presumptuous be offended, insane for a position. I continue and I am accompanied by two reasons: my heart and my pain. This is how we remember Neruda, a great of the greatest, and this is one of the best ways to remember the motherland. And we go to Isla Negra, and there we will not say goodbye, because you will always be present. Here I close Dossier in a very intense day, and we will be back tomorrow after our beloved, polluted, and unique has taken another turn about its imaginary axis, and we are in Studio 3 of Venezuela Television to tell you the small, long story of the next 24 hours, where we may be. Thank you very much for allowing us to be there with you. This was Walter Martinez, host and producer of Dossier. Director, the floor is all yours.